always was going to attack it when like defenders. I think like.
Yeah.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, man. Come on. Like the big man Ian Wright just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Now, across the weekend, we've got another preseason game due to our, our American tour. We'll be playing Man United. Shameless plug, but I'll be doing a watch along for that. I'm sure you would have seen the video I've already posted this morning. And obviously, big up Dan Potts. I did a live stream with him. We all know we're linked with Merino. The Calafiori deal looks like it's moving ever closer. We've been re-linked with Gyokeres. Indirectly, Ivan Toney. Smith Rowe is about to complete a move away from the football club in Fulham, and again, I'm doing a video on it, but he signed his new deal in like July of 2021 22, and like in 2024, ironically in July, I think his birthday's on Sunday, he's about to leave the football club. So yeah, a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but it's a necessary evil. We need to bring finances in, we need to reinvest to get that much closer to Manchester City, and we need to keep it moving. And I mean, a lot of people complained about Edu and saying he's not doing anything, and now you're starting to see people coming in. People, again, any opinions, questions, talking points, again, as much as I like the sound of my own voice and I'm definitely great to look at, it's quite boring, people. It's it's football's subjective. So any thoughts, opinions, etc., get them in. One love to those of you lot on Twitter, Twitch, and obviously YouTube. Not against this right back, Charlie, it never gets old. Up the Gooners indeed, man. We need more goal scoring power. Prince, you're not wrong. And again, I'm a bit conflicted personally, because I do. How do I make this make sense? Smash the like button and we can make it make sense for YouTube ones. How can I make this make sense? I feel a bit conflicted. I feel we over exaggerate the need for a striker, but then I also feel we don't. I do feel we got the season before the one that's just gone, we got 80 odd goals. We've improved that, got 91 in the Premier League, over 100. So we're obviously everybody's contributing in all assets of the aspects, better yet, of the football team. We're defending well from the front, obviously highlighted with the defensive options we had last season and the improvements in many regards in that. With what we're doing from set pieces, some unlikely heroes are popping up with goals. Obviously, Declan Rice had his first significant goal scoring season. Kai Havertz ended the season strong. Saka is Saka. Trossard did his thing. But we know we're going to score goals next season. But who is going to get them? Saka is the one that everybody in July, entering into August, would bet on. And when you start to break down our goals, take nothing away from it. We scored a lot from set pieces. Now, no doubt that is going to continue. That has to continue. But logically speaking, in the last season, we were a bit of a known entity. The season before our first title challenge, we was quote unquote a breath of fresh air. The season that's just gone, you saw a lot of people, low blocks, trying to kind of stop us. And at the first part of the season, literally around August towards maybe December, we had issues creating chances, let alone converting them and breaking down low blocks. So you'd imagine, logically speaking, if you're thinking about how to play against Arsenal next season, you're going to be a bit more switched on defensively from set pieces. And a couple of clubs have, brought in a set piece culture or two and whatnot. But I think you can't lie to yourselves. I think anyone that says Arsenal couldn't do with definitely another inside forward, another versatile attacker to ease the burden on Saka / provide competition out there. And left-hand side seems like it's open season. We have to assume Declan Rice is going to continue his life as a left 8. Obviously, we might bring in a midfielder that shifts the dynamics. Calafiori has been signed, aimed at adding some stability at left back. Obviously, left wing is probably Trossard's at the moment, but Martinelli's there. I think I'm doing a video on this. I think we're very lopsided. Kai Havertz, I hope the season continues in terms of how you ended it. I hope you keep scoring goals. I hope Gabriel Jesus gets back to goal scoring form. The same goes for Martinelli. Trossard, I hope that continues. But there's a lot of questions. There's not a lot of answers. And I think we need a striker. And if we can't get a striker, we definitely need a winger. We definitely need another attacker. Let's not get hung up on specific titles and things of that ilk. I think we'd go a long way. I must admit, though, if you offer me the winger of my dreams, the striker of my dreams, or the central midfielder of my dreams, whoever they are, we need to address all those areas. I must admit, and let me know your thoughts, I don't know which one I'd pick. I would probably say central midfield, purely because we've got some good attacking options. We could just simply upgrade. Defensively, we're spoiled now, really and truly. I mean, if Arteta wants to sign more defenders and he's got a plan, do your thing. But we've not only got Saliba, we've got Gabriel, we've got Calafiori, we've got Timber. I know he's injured, but we've got Tomiyasu. Central midfield, on the face of it, we have got some decent options there, but time isn't kind to Jorginho and Partey. Fabio Vieira, we hope he can stay fit, and he is a versatile player, but we hope he can also contribute in that left 8. I think we're missing a trick not signing a midfielder, whether that is a ceiling raiser like Merino or someone, a floor raiser, apologies, or a ceiling raiser. Of course, it's live, man. Hi. I don't know why I said hi, but I just wanted to prove I am live, man. Look, I'm holding a glass of water. Finally caught you live, bro. Been watching and liking the content on Playback. Appreciate that. I don't like Ruiz. Bring me Eze Merino. Why don't you like Fabian Ruiz? I'm not against it. I'm not against Fabian Ruiz, but you know, he did his thing at Betis. He did his thing at PSG. Well, he's at PSG. You know, he's done okay there. He's not, you know, he's going to get sold. Did his thing at Napoli. I think he would sort the left 8 role, if I'm completely honest with you. He's got a wealth of experience. He's obviously a great player. He's everything I want to see in a central midfielder. I'm not saying he is the be-all and end-all. He's the best answer. But I think we could do a lot worse. But I wonder if we could get away with a cheeky little loan from PSG. Similar, it's very different, but similar to how Odegaard initially arrived. Or I don't know, it's not the best of examples, but when we got Dani Ceballos, I would like to see maybe you know, if your PSG want to sell him permanently, definitely based on the Euros. But I'd like to see us get him on loan with potentially an option to buy. Moreno, I think, is a decent floor raiser. I'm not saying he's the be all and end all, but I think he's, you know, he's an intelligent, experienced player, and he's everything I guess Mikel Arteta wants. You know, he's good in the air. Obviously, he's dynamic. I wouldn't look at these signings and be like, wow, we're so much closer to City, but it's a step in the right direction, if I'm completely honest. And when you break down our team, the vast might be an exaggeration, but a lot of the signings that are key parts of our team, people weren't looking at them at the time of signing as that they were going to do anything. You know, Ramsdale, Benjamin White, it's fair to say they're doing their thing. Some Arsenal fans said Pablo Mari was better than Gabriel. Fair to say, you know, that one there answers itself. Not everybody was convinced on Odegaard. I wouldn't even say everyone's convinced on Kai Havertz, but it's fair to say he's found a role for himself here. So we just need to keep it moving, man. People finally catching up on Ruiz. PSG was in a good move for him. Napoli, he was cooking. I think he'd do a lot better here. We all know at Paris Saint-Germain, you know, it's a lot more than just being a good footballer. There's a lot of other dynamics. I wouldn't be against Eze, but do we see us putting the 60 million down? I don't know. You know, you're inclined to believe. And maybe this don't even make sense, what I'm about to say, because really and truly, when you break it down, I don't have the information to hand, but Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, Emil Smith-Rowe, let alone their own individual appearances and starts last season combined, how many minutes have they played? How many starts did they make? How much contributions did they make to Arsenal based on at first team level? I don't want to be disingenuous. There are boys, they're part of the squad, etc., etc. My point of saying that is simply to say, really and truly, do they need replacements? Do they need replacing, better yet? You know, obviously we need a bigger squad, but and whatnot, but we kind of had to go without them essentially. But at the same time, surely we wouldn't be letting these people go without bringing people in, especially where Smith-Rowe's concerned, because he can play out wide as well as central midfield. In fact, if we just look at attackers, we've got less bodies there. I'm all for selling them so we can reinvest and keep it moving, really and truly. And difficult decisions have to be made. Again, these guys are, you know, the team is leaving them. They're on the peripheral things. It's probably best that that we, you know, divorce each other in a footballing sense. And if you get some money, and then maybe you can dream chase for an Eze. I'd imagine if you're Crystal Palace, we'll be fortunate to be able to negotiate a deal that's to Arsenal's liking. You would feel with Eze, especially because they've lost Elise and potentially could sell Gurhi. And bearing in mind, they've just got a new manager who's probably trying to install some attacking football. It is, you're going to have to put top money down. I think Arsenal like Eze, but you know, are they 100% convinced? And what I mean by that is, do they think he's a good player? Evidently. Do they think that he can get a deal done? Do they think it's an opportunity, a market opportunity of a lifetime that we can't turn down? I don't know. Eze is more than welcome, as is Ruiz and as is Merino, man. If Smith-Rowe leaves, does that create room for Ethan to develop? You would imagine so. You're not just Ethan. You look at Miles. Obviously, I don't expect them to play significant minutes next season, but with Ethan, I would say the first thing is time. The man needs time. I don't think he's ready for consistent first team football in life. When are you ready? You know, he's at the right age. You know, the concerns I have about him is what you should have as a 17, 18-year-old. I do think he could do things slightly quicker. I do think he could shield the ball quicker. I think naturally, you know, he could pick up better pockets of space because that's a strength of his. I do think he needs to learn to do things in 1 or 2 touches. He's still taking 3s and 4s, but you would imagine that with those squad players leaving, there's, you know, you'd imagine there's League Cup starts there. There's appearances off the bench. I think long-term he's an 8 or a 10, but he can play out wide. Nelson's gone. He could take up a body there. And, you know, know, I wonder what Mikel Arteta is thinking specifically into midfield is. Like, if we just assume Smith Rowe to Fulham is not a thing, and everybody who was part of the squad next season is still there, everyone who played last season is still at the club. For me, I would like two central midfielders regardless, and one's required. So I'd think on one hand, the central midfielder surely is arriving at this football club, but at the same time, is Arteta sitting there and say, you know what, Smith Rowe, we got an offer of a lifetime, we're going to sell you? Or as Smith Rowe said, you know what, Gaffer, I'm 24, I've given it my best shot for 2 years, I want to keep it moving. And Arteta's probably sat there and thought, you know what, whether it's Fabian Ruiz, Merino, we're going to bring somebody in. I'm not saying I agree with this, but on paper, Fabio Vieira can play there. Kai Havertz can play there. You've still got Jorginho and Thomas Partey. And I'm probably even missing someone else out. So I'm not really sure, but we have to wait and see. DG, Salah and Ethan were good in our preseason match. I didn't say they were good. I just think people are doing too much. I think Salah's a good player. I don't think he'll make the grade here. Very good technically. I think everyone did all right. I would say the two youngsters that impressed me the most would have to be Aidan Heaven at centre-half and Miles Lewis-Skelly at left-back, man. But yeah, man, we have to take our time. I feel unfortunately in today's day and age, if you're someone like Ethan and, you know, anyone who is half decent that comes through at Hale End, they're going to say the best talent since Jack Wilshere, etc., etc. There's going to be a lot of hype. Rightly so. The man's a very good player. There's a lot to like about him. But he's a 16, 17, 18-year-old, yeah? And his potential is up there. How do you get there? You know, some people, I know, you know, some of us can all ride a bike and do wheelies and things. You have to fall off that bike to learn and get cuts. That's where he is. We have to slow cook that individual. I genuinely believe, and he is his old man. He's Ethan Unwary, but I genuinely think we need to mirror what Phil Foden's got going on at City. Definitely want Ethan to stand up to be counted in difficult moments, but just slow cook the guy, man. But I'd expect him to get some football, man. Arteta needs to give them a chance in the cups. I'm sure he will. But at the same time, as much as I defo feel from under 21s into first team football, whether it's at Arsenal or sending people on the right loans, I think there's a lot of work the football club can do. Equally, I think Mikel Arteta could give more opportunities. But at the same time, I do think fans want to have everything. You can't ask the manager to be competitive, try win all these trophies at the same time, play the same team and then rotate players, give young players chances, but then also be competitive. Realistically, where are these chances coming? Because Champions League, fair enough, if we clear the group and we've got 2 games to spare, that's some opportunities. The League Cup, there will be opportunities. The FA Cup, there'll be slight opportunities. The Premier League, there is no real opportunities there, unless you need a bit of luck. Obviously, if he gets a chance, he takes it, he runs with it, but we need to try and win a league. There is no realistic opportunities. The team, week in, week out, as showed with last season, has to pick itself because of form. Now, obviously, tactics, shifting dynamics, all of those kind of things play a part. But the better we get as a football team, generally, the less chance of young players there are. Personally, I feel if you're not a young Jack Wilshere, a Bukayo Saka, a Ethan, to a degree, a Smith Rowe, these kind of, like, you know, the ones that are in the first team, if more so Saka and Ethan, I kind of feel if you're not kind of them lot's kind of level as a young player, I don't really think you're going to make the grade at Arsenal. Now, there could be some exceptions to the rule. The better we get, the less opportunities. And Saka's an exception. He was, any environment, that guy would have come through at Arsenal. But we have to also be fair in that, we were a mess. Up until the last 2-3 years, we were absolutely a mess. Because we are such a mess, we typically with all teams, you see young players getting opportunities. Smith Rowe, Martinelli, to a slight degree, Eddie Nketiah, Bukayo Saka, an extended run in the team. Is that the case now? Because if you're coming through now, obviously you don't have to necessarily be better, but you genuinely have to be, quote unquote, as good of an option as Bukayo Saka at right back or whatever we've got on the left-hand side. It's peak for defenders. That's why I can't blame Waters for leaving the football club. You're not going to get an opportunity like that. And I'm not criticizing Arteta. Obviously, we're Arsenal Football Club. Arteta has shown he can develop young players. You've seen it with some in the first team. But there's no divine right that man has to sit there and just bring through the kids for no reason. Because if you bring through the kids, you have to have patience. Many people like the fact of bringing these young players through. But when you're seeing what City are doing and what these other clubs are doing, people don't want to hear it, man, if I'm honest. DG, easier to get into a team 8th to 5th, but a title challenging squad, different criteria. You hit the nail on the head there. You have it, really and truly. And look at City. I'm sure they miss Cole Palmer. Couldn't buy a game. But, are they going to sleep well? Potentially, of course, man. So you're just going to have to keep moving, keep the talking points coming. Because I'm on Xbox and my PC ain't working, the only way I can type in the chat is on my phone, and it's going to die anyway. So yeah, anyways, have a nice stream. P, appreciate you. Don't forget to watch it on the playback. Just join the stream. Gyokeres would be a good signing for us, would help us bag goals. He would, but again, it's another one that you look at the striker market. Obviously, we are not scouts. We do not have, all the software that these scouts at clubs do. Neither do we sit down and watch football all day, every day. I think there is a lot of strikers in the modern day that can do the dropping into midfield, the general play stuff, all of that kind of stuff. Where it comes to goals, the striker market is horrible. So logically speaking, from a business point of view, if you've got someone that can score goals and is a decent striker in a day and age where there isn't too many, are you going to let him go cheaply? They just bought Gyokeres. He's under contract for a while. Obviously, there's an element of tax because you look at the top 5 leagues, the money in England compared to the other clubs in other countries, there's quite the contrast. We live in a day and age where I don't know why I always use this as an example, but it always struck me in that I think it was for Zanolio, Bournemouth and AC Milan are going toe to toe. I'm only 29. If you told me that in the early 2000s, I think you would have been bugging out. So how much is Sporting Lisbon's willingness to negotiate with us? How far are Arsenal prepared to pay? I don't, unless we're convinced in the same way we was on Kai Havertz, because that wasn't a popular decision with fans for 65 million. I would say with departing with 100 million for Declan Rice, we're not going to activate Gyokeres' release clause. So we're probably relying on their willingness to do it. Personally, I think we're going to park the striker stuff off for another year and maybe just focus on getting a wide attacker in. I think the next step for us would probably be, and I don't know this, but I just think once the Calafiori thing's done, we'll switch our attentions to addressing midfield or looking what we can do in that. Unless it's an Osman, I just don't see in a sword striker. Gyokeres still question marks. Sesko was mainly to be a winger. I'm not too sure. I mean, Sesko can play out wide as well as up front. He wouldn't have broken the bank. His wages wouldn't have broken the bank. He's someone that could have been first choice, but also someone that could have been a rotational option. There was an element of a market opportunity because of the release clause. So I'm not too sure. And even Osimhen, as much as I like him, I think he would hit the ground running. He'd be great. He's shown he can play in a couple of leagues. And I'm like 98%. When you hear about injuries and stuff like that, who knows? And to be fair, it seems like I think on the Osimhen front, I think we're going to get linked with him again because it seems like Napoli are getting closer to getting Lukaku. It's PSG 1 minute they're going for Osimhen, then they're not prepared to pay the price tag. So who knows, man, really. I think we're going to park the striker off. Having Merino and Ruiz, it's one or the other. I prefer Merino. I'd probably... would I prefer Fabian Ruiz or Merino? Fabian Ruiz would be more my bias, more what I would want to see in the left-sided 8 or just in central midfield, because I just think you could mimic directly what we lost with Xhaka. And then Declan Rice, yeah, you can keep doing your thing, becoming this 8 and doing what you need to do, but we can kind of have him in a role that he's more at home with. But I do think when I look at both the players, I personally think, tongue-tied there, probably makes more sense to go for Merino just because, you look at his statistics in the air. He's obviously good at winning his duels, a big part of playing for Arsenal. He can play as a 6 or an 8. He's going to cost about 20-odd million. There's a sense of urgency because he's 28. He's not going to be here forever. I just think it would make more sense, probably total package for someone like Merino, really. I don't think we get both. Would you take a chance on Rashford? If he was on his 30-goal-a-season mode, could be an astute signing. Conflicted where it comes to Rashford. I like him. I really do like Rashford, but I just think your footballing IQ is extremely frustrating. I'm sure it has improved and no doubt it has, but to me, from seeing Marcus Rashford at 18 years of age to however old he is now, I don't think his decision-making across 90 minutes has improved enough. I feel more so me wanting Marcus Rashford is just because of Mikel Arteta, what he's shown with Kai Havertz and people of that ilk that just need a bit of love. But he's not Superman as good as he is. He will get things wrong. And Rashford's going to cost a lot of money. He's on like 300 grand a week. Not that I'm pocket watching. I'm not sure if Man United would even want to sell him, much less sell him to us. It's a lot of, every sign is a risk, but it's a lot of risk. And I don't know how much we'd get back essentially. But when Rashford's on song, he's a transitional monster, man. Gyokeres is going to smash it. He's a killer that is already running at top speed. He'll hit the ground running. And he has played in England. People will say, oh, it's the Championship, but he has done that before. Are there great strikers that cost around 60 million at the moment that we can get? I personally don't think so. Who knows, man? But you would imagine there's, a whole list of strikers that Arsenal have monitored, even forwards that we haven't spoken about in videos because we've known for the best part of a year or so that we've needed a forward. And, again, we can't do ifs and buts. But had Kai Havertz not have went up front, because let's be honest, he was playing in central midfield. I suppose at a time that was the thing, we're trying to make him a midfielder. Fortunately, he's gone up front. Maybe if Kai Havertz's form and the way he was in 2024 or since we came back from Dubai, maybe, us fans would be pressing the need for a striker a bit more, maybe internally at Arsenal. So I'm not too sure in that regard. Son dad made his son keep the ball up for 4 hours a day. I'd have him playing in the sand at that age. Crazy. Arc City, who has a young player start for the Champions League final. I'll wait. Simple as, if you want to win big trophies, you barely see it. I hear that. And it seems like Gyokeres is getting a lot of love in the chat. We are midfielder, winger, and striker after the Calafiori signing. Then we're okay for the season. Definitely the EPL is ours. Gunners move. I mean, even with signings, there's a lot that we can arrest internally, really and truly. And even if we did all of that and brought in everything we need, I don't think it's an assurance. You know, we're playing a juggernaut of a team in Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. But I would say the most disappointing, but the most encouraging thing beyond the obvious as to why City won the league is, for me, in the last 2 seasons, and definitely last year, before I could point a finger at City and even praise them for how good they are, take nothing away, I think we didn't win either of the last 2 league titles because of ourselves or what we did or didn't do. So I guess we could take that with a pinch of salt, man. If I'm honest, our youth needs a clear plan, and Arsenal need to take the Saliba loan route to give them a route to the first team. Hoping we get 2 centre mids, a winger, and 2 strikers. I think we're dream chasing with 2 strikers and 2 central midfielders. I don't have any reason to be confident about bringing in a winger. It's more just surely that's where we're going, if in my opinion. Merino makes sense. Ruiz is just too Spursy. I mean, he's won trophies. He can't be Spursy. This kind of player feels Bentancur-ish. Can't play at PSG. I just don't like it. To be fair, Bentancur's been a good sign. I think he would have been good for us. He's just, you pick Spurs. It's been peak, really and truly. Is Ruiz really wavy, or is he a beneficiary of the loaded Spanish midfielders he plays with? I mean, naturally in football, you're to a degree, you're only as good as bad as those who are around you. But I think Fabian Ruiz has shown he's a quality player. And I think, you know, yeah, you could say that, but in that midfield, who really outshined him? Merino did his thing. Zubamendi, in the roles he did in the Euros, did his thing. Rodri is Rodri, but Fabian Ruiz, you could argue, can say, unless your name is Nico Williams or your name is Yamal, he was probably Spain's best player. And I haven't even seen the team of the tournament, but you would imagine he's in some sort of team of the tournament. All I know is João Neves started at 120 M's. Now it's 70. Sporting won't turn down a bag for Gyokeres. Bring him in for Eddie at 50, 60. I'm cool with that. I mean, if they're on probably more than 60 odd million euros, if we could do that, then I'm all for it, man. But that's what I mean. It's got to make sense. I don't see Arsenal activating your release clause, etc. Gyokeres burns pure pace dribbling too. That sets him apart. Works hard as another tick. Not a natural goal scorer, though. I hear that, but it's a bit harsh to say when you got 29 league goals and however many new comps that he's not a natural goal scorer. And I would say, Matthew, one of my gripes is, and I love it as a fan, we love to see players work hard. I don't really care about working hard. You should be working hard. I'm sure you lot in your jobs, in college, in school, you should be working hard. Working hard is the minimum. And this doesn't apply to Gyokeres, but logically, I always give this example. If you've got 2 players, let's just say Matthew, because I see a name Matthew and Ben. Let's say Matthew's an absolute baller. He's a Paul Scholes. You would describe him as having great technical ability. You couldn't get the ball off him in a phone box. Let's say Ben is a decent player, but he's nothing to scream and shout about. You will say Ben puts in a shift. When you start saying people put in a shift and they work hard, they're dead. Scott McTominay works hard. I'm not sure if that's enough, if I'm honest. Ruiz better than Merino, in my opinion. 2 slightly different sorts of midfielders. I think, obviously, Ruiz is a lot more technically blessed, but I think Merino is more of an all-rounder of what I would want to see at Arsenal, if I'm honest. As I said, the key thing for me with Ruiz is he's got 1 foot out the door. Maybe we could negotiate favourable conditions. And I just see him more likely to just slot in with that Xhaka role, man. Berbatov is my favourite United player. Berbatov, what a player he was, man. At Leverkusen and Man United. We won't mention the club in North London he played for. So, yeah, man, in that regards, keep your talking points coming. Having Merino and Ruiz, it's one or the other. I prefer Merino. They would operate in similar positions. I want 2 centre mids, but they have to be different profiles. I've given up on 2 central midfielders. I think we get 1 this year. Depending on what happens with Partey and Jorginho, another one comes in, really. So I think it's a one thing. And even me, as much as you lot have heard me numerous times sit here and say, yes, I want 2 central midfielders. I want 2 central midfielders. I must admit, I am starting to go against that logic and say maybe 1 is just enough. Ruiz at Napoli over Merino at any time. Ruiz didn't get a chance at PSG. Maybe the manager didn't like him. To be fair, he's got his fellow countryman, Luis Enrique, and such is the turnover at PSG. He's probably had a couple of gaffers in the time there. Merino, Calafiori, and a top-level winger might be enough with Ethan taking Smith Rowe's spot. Still think we need a striker. I think anyone who says Arsenal don't need a striker is a liar. Purely off the basis of, you look at our team, Striker is the only position you could say really significantly we could do with an improvement. And obviously, you can only look at what's in front of you. But looking at the next few years, you look at our front three or our front three options. Who really and truly at this moment in time could you say could be part of a 3-man strike force for a title winning side? I love Martinelli, but you're not scoring enough. Big fan of Gabriel Jesus. You've won Premier League titles, but you weren't the main guy. Kai Havertz is a Champions League winner, but if you stop scoring, we're in trouble. It's probably only Bukayo Saka. So I genuinely think, obviously, I back Martinelli all the way, but if it was up to me and we woke up and we've, Calafiori signed and sealed, we've done what we need to do in midfield, and was able to, I think you could do with a versatile wide man that can probably play on the left-hand side and an out-and-out number 9, but it's easier said than done. It's easy for us to speak on YouTube about such. If we get a gunman striker or a goal-scoring winger like Nico Williams would work. I'd love both. Either or would be good. If we could get Ruiz on loan, we can spend more on a striker too. That's why sales are so crucial, man, because, again, I'm not an accountant, but we've given 27 million to make Raya's deal permanent. Obviously, Calafiori is going to cost about 40 odd million euros. We've got about 3 million for Amari Hutchinson's move to Ipswich from Chelsea owing to a sell-on clause. Mika Bereth went for about 4 million. We've basically got 8 to 9 million for Nuno Tavares because that's gone from that's an obligation to buy. We've got a loan fee for Lokonga. Obviously, we're about to get 35 million for Emil Smith-Rowe. This is where we need to keep going. And that's without talking about, Reece Nelson and people of that ilk. I'm actually not sure with Tierney. Big up Dan Potts. Make sure you subscribe to him and make sure you check out the stream we did earlier. He said apparently some rumors are saying that Tierney might be out until December. Now, evidently, if he's out till December, and maybe we could, but who is going to want to? It's like buying a chest of drawers that's broken. You wouldn't want to do that. Why would you want to buy a footballer that is injured at this moment? And we all know Tierney's issue. So Tierney probably stays, probably is registered, and then we take it from there from January. But you never know. And then obviously, assuming Smith-Rowe goes and Ketia goes, Nelson goes, we've just spoken about Tierney. You're then probably looking at Kivior, potentially Zinchenko. I'd say things would probably center around whether we're going to able to get Aaron Ramsdale off the books, man. You can swing Rice, Partey, Odegaard, but it's risky. Havertz is fine. Eddie and Ketia and Jesus, I trust either given a run out, not off the bench. Arteta is ruthless. He'll address the attacking line. I've noticed his contract has not been announced yet. Demands for incomings this window would have been made, I'm sure. I personally think Arteta signed that new deal. We're just waiting for official announcements, if I'm honest with you. Tierney will sadly go on a free. I mean, he's got 2 years left. Tony is injured too. I ain't against revisiting him in January. Ivan Toney wouldn't be my first choice, but I do think some people turn up their nose. I don't think he would be a bad addition for Arsenal Football Club to go and look for. Nico Williams, 14 is the dream. The dream is free. The hustle is sold separately, as I always say. Man, Nico Williams, it feels like one that we should have tried to get last year, but hindsight's an amazing thing, man. But yeah, people, you look at Fabrizio Romano. Obviously, he said earlier today that Calafiori is to travel from Italy to London, and then he's expected to fly for the first part of his medical test and then link up with his new teammates in America. He's then said he's set to fly to London tonight, as reported earlier. He'll then fly to US for the pre-season tour. So you'd imagine at best, the first time we'll get to see him in an Arsenal shirt will probably be next week against Liverpool, and then obviously the Emirates Cup in the Premier League. So that's where we're at with him. Ooh, what's going on here? Okay, Thomas Partey send a warning shot to Declan Rice and Jorginho over competing place. Respectfully, Partey, I like that, but without reading what you've had to say, I don't think Declan Rice, has anything to worry about. You and Jorginho is probably Odegaard, Rice, and whoever wants to make up that final piece of the puzzle. But I like that because several Arsenal players have spoken and they've relished the competition. I know many people have washed their hands of Zinchenko, but I like the fact that he's saying, you know what, the collective comes first. Everyone fights for their place. As I always say, give Arteta a headache. Nonetheless, Thomas Partey said, I think the confidence is always there. We are there to compete with the best, and we know we need to get the best out of ourselves to be able to compete. We have to compete against each other, and then at the end of the day, we'll be able to compete against other teams, which is true. On his injury, he said it's life, things happen, and sometimes there are things you cannot control, but I have to keep going and keep fighting. Every time I fall, I have to get up and fight back. That's the mentality I have. I also think that anytime I can help the team, this is what I have to do. And, maybe, you never know, form could be out of this world, and Jorginho the same, and they could be granted extended stays, but you'd imagine for both of these players, if we are to win anything next season, that would probably be your last kind of outing in Arsenal colours, essentially. He went on to say, people, we have a lot of players in that position. George is playing good. I'm playing good. Declan is there. Martin is there. We also have other players who can come in and make a difference. We have to compete against each other. And at the end, fog day. I think it means the end of the day. It is the manager who decides. This is the kind of competition we get to the level that we want to be at. I like what you said there. There's nothing else in that regards. In terms of pre-season, we're starting to welcome back a couple of players, people. Kai Havertz, Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Magalhaes are set to return to pre-season preparations. Apparently, Saka is in America, people. No clue where Declan Rice and Raya are. But, you know, you'd imagine Saka's still got time off. So, yeah, man, we're starting to get the band back together. We've gone over the Thomas Partey thing. What else have we got? I'm bored of the Joshua Kimmich stuff, but for what it's worth, reports are saying Arsenal are ready to beat Barcelona and Real Madrid to the signing of Joshua Kimmich this summer. We all know he's got a year left at Bayern Munich, and speculation over his future remains. We've been linked with Merino, been linked with Zubamendi, now linked with Fabian Ruiz. The Kimmich rumours haven't gone away. Allegedly, people, we're closing in on him, people. It will cost about 40 million euros, 34 million pounds, which is good money on not really for a guy of Kimmich's ability if you're Bayern Munich, but considering he's got a year left. And yeah, the fee might not be a lot, but you'd imagine Kimmich is going to be one of the top earners. And Kimmich has been linked with everybody who would, you know, anyone who's anybody really and truly. He's been linked with City, United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs. Now I'm chatting Spurs or no one. And obviously the clubs in Spain. So I have to see. I must admit, I don't buy into these things, people. Obviously, Alphonso Davies is in a similar situation to Joshua Kimmich. Indirectly, you could throw Sane and Gnabry into that. That's why I kind of take those things with a pinch of salt. We've been going over Gyokeres, people. Apparently, we're set to reignite our interest in him, and we're considering a £60 million bid for him, people. And he was last season one of the most informed forwards. We know Sesko opted to stay at Leipzig. It seems like he's a pipe dream, to put it nicely. Osimhen is far too expensive. Nico Williams, we'd love him, but it seems like he's got his heart set on Bilbao. Either staying at Bilbao, as reports say, or joining Barcelona. Eddie Nketiah, it doesn't appear the move to Marseille is imminent because Smith Rowe was left out of our last game. Eddie played, so there's not really anything. Some reports say he's agreed personal terms. Where Gyokeres is concerned, we've also been linked with Brian Brobley. Romano allegedly has said we're on bidding 55 to 60 million for Gyokeres, and that could spark some negotiations, but he's got an 86 million pound release clause. I mean, to be fair, 60 million, 65. Can we meet at 70, or 60 and 10 million in add-ons? I'm not too sure, man. But I mean, he's 26 years of age. He's in prime ages now. He's been linked with Atletico Madrid as well as Chelsea and everybody else. He got 43 goals in 50 appearances last season. Obviously, people, when you perform like that and score them kind of goals that he's done, if you have a handsome goal return, but you're not quite that, people are going to say you've fallen off, really. So I guess indirectly to us casual Arsenal fans and football fans, we're probably thinking, oh, you know what? Can he do it again? Is this a fluke of a season in his first year in a top 5 league? I don't think it is, but yeah. We've also been linked with Julian Alvarez. Allegedly, Manchester City will demand 60 million before add-ons. What do you lot think of that? I'm not against it, people. Apparently, they want 60 million in a transfer fee plus 17 million in add-ons. So that's 77 million essentially for the 24-year-old, who is quite versatile. Apparently, it's claimed that Alvarez and his family would prefer to live in a warmer climate than Manchester. So you can forget about Arsenal or Chelsea who've been linked with him. And that adds fuel to the fire for Atletico Madrid. Will Atletico Madrid spend the money that City are looking at? I'm not too sure. What else have we got? It really is a Spanish affair, isn't it, people? Allegedly, Arsenal have agreed personal terms with Mikel Merino. We all know the 28-year-old has been linked with us. Allegedly, Arsenal switched their attentions to signing him once Calafiori is done. He's got a year left on his deal. We hear that Moreno has given his green light to a move and agreed personal terms with Arsenal. This comes after we reported that talks were not expected to provide much of a challenge, with the Spain star keen on the move to the Emirates. That said, Arsenal have yet to table a formal offer to Sociedad for the player, who is out of contract next summer and will not cost a fortune. We understand that this won't change until the Gunners have managed to sell Smith Rowe, who is closing in on a 40+ million move to Fulham, people. So we'll have to see. And he's also been linked with a number of clubs: Barcelona, Atletico, Chelsea, as well as Arsenal Football Club as well. Seems like all of these clubs that I keep saying we're all linked with the same names. Team News and Ticks on his Patreon page allegedly said we're edging closer to Moreno. From what I hear, we've ramped up efforts recently and we believe the player has chosen us. I hear that, but until he's signed on the dotted line, anything can happen. The only caveat is players will sometimes say one thing to you and then promise another club the same. Obviously, that's what Chido Obi Martin can do. And to be fair, clubs probably do that with players as well. Everybody's a liar in business. If it's not in cold-hearted writing, who knows, people? So we have to be able to move and be receptive in all sort of dynamics. Romano has said Arsenal have still not presented any official bid for Merino as their focus is on sealing the Calafiori deal. Formal contacts for a new midfielder will start in the next days with Merino in the list. Approaches took place on the player's side. Fair play, people. So things are going on in the back burners, and Moreno allegedly said that Romano said that on playback, so we have to see, and many journalists are echoing the same thing. Fabio Vieira obviously scored a wonderful volley you would have seen against Bournemouth in our 5-4 penalty win, 1-1 after 90 minutes. Allegedly, we turned down offers from Saudi Arabia, Spain, Italy, and Germany, and I like Fabio Vieira, but you need to make significant progress next season, man. You know, Arteta clearly sees you as a very intelligent, versatile player. You know, you can play as a 10. That's Odegaard. Go and give Odegaard some problems. The left 8, it's a bit of a free season. It's a bit of a free run. We don't really know who that is. Go and put a marker down. You have played off the right, which I don't really feel is you, but Mikel Arteta seems to keep playing you off that. And I've don't know why you can't thrive out there. No players are the same, but I don't think he's a winger or a wide playmaker in the same vein of Cole Palmer or Foden or someone. But go and make a mark, Fabio, man, because your career at Arsenal has been stop-start. You show a little bit of promise, and then it is what it is. And big up Dan Potts. He made a great point. He's like, when you look at it, Fabio Vieira has excelled a lot off the left-hand side, and maybe that's something to consider, people. Again, keeping up the theme with Spain, Vieira and Ruiz. Arsenal have initiated discussions with PSG for Spain international midfielder Vieira and Ruiz. As we know, the 28-year-old had a great Euros. People did very well. Hasn't quite worked for him at PSG since joining from Napoli. Does have a contract until 2027, people. Neither of the coaches he has worked under at PSG have used him as a consistent first choice. Last season with Luis Enrique, he started just 21 of their Liga and Champions League matches, but followed that season up with exceptional performances in the European Championship. Then, you know, Duncan Castles, who's been speaking about this, said for someone a Premier League club are looking at, he won more balls than anyone else at the tournament and won twice as many in the final third of the pitch as any other player. Some of that has to be down to the players he's playing with and obviously Spain's system, but he has the raw ingredients of what, in theory, Mikel Arteta wants to go with his technical ability. So he's got that pressing ability, which is fundamental to the way Arteta plays. He passes the ball accurately, beats opponents 1v1, selling it a bit there, but he is a great dribbler. He seems like an obvious fit to the Arsenal system. Ruiz to Arsenal only possible under certain conditions. For me, it's a loan thing, essentially, people. It's possible if they come to an agreement with PSG on a transfer fee, the deal will be structured the same way as the one they used to bring David Araya, his fellow countryman from Brentford, a loan with an obligation to buy a year later. We all know he came through at Betis, he ended up at Napoli, and he's currently at PSG, and he is a Euros winner. So we'll have to see how that goes, man. Again, what's actually reported in the media and what's actually going on in the world of football is a completely different thing, because Calafiori, reports were saying that we've walked away from it. All of a sudden, his holiday's done and he's about to become an Arsenal footballer. So yeah, right. You can see I'm in love with the Calafiori news, isn't it? Continuing the theme, Kivior's been aggressively linked with a move this week. Doesn't seem like that's going to be anything imminent. Romano has said, despite reports, still zero talks or contacts between Inter and Arsenal or Inter and Kivior's camp. Maybe they're trying to wait to assess exactly what we're going to do. I wonder if Arsenal have changed their mind in short to Tomiyasu's injury. Obviously, he's only going to be here a couple of weeks. We've got a long way to go out for a couple of weeks. We're only couple of months, well, if that, you know, a couple of months into the transfer window, and really and truly it's only started ramping up, you know, 2 weeks into July. We've got a long time, not the window closed in September. Romano has said it's important for Arsenal to complete some outgoings. We know Smith Rowe is close to joining Fulham. They're working on a deal with Marseille for Nketiah. Also Nelson to Leicester City is a possibility, so negotiations are ongoing. In terms of the youth people, apparently Arsenal and Celtic are fighting it out to sign Callum Hamill, people. So we'll see what we can do there. Never seen him play, so yeah, maybe some of you lot have. We've gone over it already, but Fulham are close to an agreement over Emil Smith Rowe for a deal worth up to 35 million quid. There'll probably be a decent sell-on clause, and considering the fact that he could be our biggest sell, that shows you there's a lot more we can do in terms of sales. But 35 million, which is Fulham's record addition for a player who's only made 3 starts since August 2022, that's quite decent. And makes me want to cry, really and truly. Just shows the hell he's been through with injuries, man. Hopefully he gets a bit of luck. Apparently we have poached Darren Rodgerson from Manchester City to join Arsenal's first team as a analysis people, so we'll see what he can bring to the table. Mikel Arteta, apparently, you know, there's still talk about him signing a new deal. This is just a think piece. I'm not going to bore you lot with reading that off The Athletic. Kivior's been linked with Juventus in a potential swap deal concerning Chiesa. Chiesa's got a year left on his deal. Do we really buy that? I'm not too sure, but if you do, let me know. What else have we got? Allegedly, Merino is desperate to join Arsenal and turned down other lucrative offers. Arsenal are close to signing him and are able to pay the 30 million euro fee in one go. Barca like the player a lot, but seems he's going to Arsenal. So we'll have to see what that is saying. Again, we've going over so much Merino stuff, will be just saying the same things. Romano has spoken on Nico Williams and saying Barcelona's stance has not changed. Total priority to Nico Williams. No other signing will be activated until they get a final answer from Nico. Contacts took place for Dani Olmo, but nothing will happen in advance until the Nico deal is clarified. Same for João Cancelo. So, you know, Moreno's been linked with them and they need another midfielder. But based on that, you know, you can't draw too many conclusions. But that says Nico Williams is the priority. We'll see what we can do for Dani Olmo. We do want to bring back João Cancelo from City. Then, depending on outgoings and if we check our bank balance, maybe we'll go for Merino, in which obviously Arsenal could potentially take advantage of that. Apparently, you know, journalists in Spain are saying Barcelona, PSG or staying in Bilbao are the top options for Nico. Got a lot to consider, really and truly. I mean, you could stay at Bilbao. There is no rush. PSG, you know, post Mbappe life, you could do your thing. Barcelona, it seems like they're on the offensive. So we'll have to see exactly what he wants to do there, people. Nicolas Pepe spoke about his struggles at Arsenal as well, people. And he said, they don't ask for 100. Sorry, he said, if Arsenal bought me for 20 million, maybe it'd be different. It's not the player's fault. They don't ask for 100 or 90 million, but that's how it is in football. And it's something that people can't understand. There are also players like Mudryk and Antony who don't perform at their best all the time, and yet they're not bad players. They're not, but Pepe, respect yourself. The only common thing you've got is you cost a lot of money. Pepe was a lot better than Mudryk, and he's definitely better than Antony. Like, none of them players are on nothing, really and truly. We listen to all offers, and it's my reps who will let me know a club's real intentions. If it's not a serious offer, I don't hear about it. Let's see what happens, but I'm not ruling out a return to England. Who wants to get Pepe back, people? No, I'm playing. I think we all know that's not a thing. Don't forget to vote for the guy where this award is concerned, people. It takes 2 minutes of your time. What other tabs have I got? Again, who is this? I think this is with Dan Potts. Earlier today, I was live streaming with Dan, so check that out after or over the weekend. I want to say tomorrow, but it's not Saturday. It's the early hours of Sunday morning for us in the United Kingdom. We will be watching... Ooh, almost broke something there. We will, as I was saying, we will be watching Man United Arsenal together. So yeah, do make sure you've turned on your reminders. That seems to be all the emerging news. What are you lot saying in the chat, man? Because I got through that and kind of aired you lot. Apologies, man. What have you lot said? Some of these journalists contradict themselves and they don't even realize it's all essential guesswork. I mean, even the most respected ones, David Ornstein, Romano, they're all guessing. Some have more informed sources than others, but they're all just saying the same things. You know, one will break the news, everyone will copy and paste it, add their little swell to it. They're all just trying to get clicks in it. Almo, just go Madrid, please. He better not come to this league. I mean, if you go Madrid, are you going to play? Don't understand how it's reported Williams is Barca's only focus, yet they bid for Almo. Nobody knows what's being reported and what's actually going on in the offices of all these clubs are very different things. The Smith, if only things were different. It's true, man. Big up the Bajans. And a part of me wants to see Smith Rowe return to the football club one day. I think if Milan sell for Kivior goes, I think Kivior has to make sense. I don't think we're going to let him go on a dry loan. I think it's got to be with an obligation. I'd imagine evidently the first thing would be to sell him outright. This new fetish with starting young players over better players just because they're young is so weird. He's better than Vieira, yet Vieira's been starting over him at PSG. Well, we know at Arsenal think because that gives us a chance to net a quality player. Fair enough, man. Coventry have a 10 to 15% clause on the profit of Gyokeres naturally. So there's a lot of red tape. Atletico want Gallagher. So there you have it as well. That tells you they want a midfielder, somewhat a combative kind of midfielder. Are we becoming B-Tech La Masia? Not really. And to be fair, if La Masia at his peak, if we could be B-Tech, then we'd be doing all right. Our Schooners will regret selling Smith Rowe in years to come. I hope for his point of view that is, but I think the club will be just fine, man. It's not like we're losing for Cesc Fabregas or something. Mad to think a few years ago, we were screaming at the club for even entertaining the thought of selling Tini for good money. It just shows how quickly time moves on. Do you think Odegaard will take the 10 when Smith Rowe leaves? I hope so, but based on when he got the 8 and the song and dance made, I don't think so. But who knows? Maybe it's being kept open for someone. It'll be weird because there could be a reality this summer where the 10 shirt will be free and the number 14 will be free. Personally, if we're not going to sign, an Isaac or anything like that, which we all know isn't going to happen, let's just retire the number 14 or leave it free until a serious striker comes in. Indirectly, the same for the 10, really. It's shameless, but if I was Fabio Vieira, I might be saying, Gaffer, can't I get that, if I'm honest with you? But who knows, man? Maybe we keep it free because someone could arrive at the football club. The dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. No, I ain't heard that. Arsenal improving their core wingers. I don't know, man. You'd imagine we're not, when we're linked with wingers, for me, like, let's take Rafinha, for example. Obviously, he's a professional footballer. For me, he's a lot better on the right than he's on the left, but he can play on both. When we're linked with wingers and they're primarily on the right-hand side, I look at it with a pinch of salt. The only exception being Pedro Neto, purely because your second choice to Saka, no matter what happens. Pepe still has better GA than Sancho and Anthony combined in the Prem. They need to put respect on his name, man, essentially, man. But I hope Pepe finds a new club as well, because it's sad, man. What, at 28, 29, you ain't got a club. It's peak, man. I even think it's completely off topic, but I even feel sorry for someone like De Gea. Like, you've not had a club for a year. You can't even go Saudi Arabia and make some money there. I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is, man. We'll have to see. We basically swapped Smith Rowe for Calafiori. If you think about it, similar fee. Yeah, it kind of paid for itself. You're getting 35 million for Smith Rowe. 40, you're paying 40, 50 odd for Calafiori. It's paying itself. You throw in the fees we've got already. It's paying itself. And in an ideal world, you shift Tierney, you shift Kirill, you shift Ramsdale, you shift a lot more. You'd imagine Charlie Patton. I don't think Charlie's going to bring top money at the club. I wish him all the best. I hope he would stay. But you'd imagine you could get a 10 million or something there. It starts paying for itself, essentially, man. It seems like, Gabriel Jesus was linked with Saudi. That's not going anywhere. Partey has a year left on his deal, and I think Arsenal would entertain serious offers, but are they going to be forthcoming? And if he want to leave or run down his deal, there we have our answer. Aaron Ramsdale, I personally think the club might have to loan him out. I can't see anyone giving us a fee that we want. Again, what do I know? We didn't think this week that Fulham would be given 35 million for Smith Rowe. So who knows, man? The clauses in Pepe's contract were nasty. No other explanation. His agents and Raul did him dirty. We zanged ourselves, man. There's been a couple of times I've got some flank on talking about Arsenal, and I've always said I want to be wrong. When we signed Pepe, I said we made a mistake. We obviously, everybody could see that 80 odd million quid we spent was absolutely crazy. But if you look at it, the last, the season he had when we signed him in the year before that, it's one of them where you're playing out of your world. People are putting you on a level you're not. I said as well, Gabriel Jesus, I love him, but if we make him our number 9, we're gonna have the same conversations we have about Lacazette, respectfully to both players. So yeah, man. Broken clock really is right twice a day. Nice lifestyle in Saudi Arabia, no alcohol, isn't it? No tax as well. Liked what Pepe said about his relationship with Arteta, was honest and classy. Yeah, it was, man. And it just shows, because when Pepe wasn't playing, whether we're right or wrong, there was all this Arteta don't like him and blah. Just shows what's reported and reality are different things. I do admit, though, where I've looked at Arteta sometimes, and it's not all him and it's not all the players, but when Ainsley Maitland-Niles was playing, when Smith Rowe was playing, when Tierney was playing, definitely when Pepe was the guy, at a point where Torreira and Ozil were playing, it's like, it seems like we've kind of not got stability. That's not the right word, but it seems like they're in his plans. That Arteta's like, no, I'm on something else. And it's actually a good quality of a manager. You never know what he's on next, man. We went to Lille with 80 and didn't buy. We went to Lille with 80 and didn't buy Leao. I think Rafa Leao is extremely overrated. I'm not saying you're saying this. I think he's a great player. Don't get twisted. If he signed for Arsenal, he'll be good. But I think a lot of people talk about him. Don't watch him week in, week out. Has he got technical level? Great. Has he got stardust? Great. He's better than Rashford, but he does the same things I kind of complain about Rashford. Leao does as well, really and truly. You're very good on the transition. You've got great work rate, great attitude. I'm having you at the football club, but I think people overrate him, and that's nothing to do with him. Arsenal have signed prospect Tommy Setford, 17-year-old goalkeeper from Ajax, too soon to replace Aaron Ramsdale at the age you'd imagine so. He ain't kicked a senior ball. But because we haven't got David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale in our pre-season preparation so far, he's got an opportunity. Not just him, that Lucas Nodgaard guy, Rojas. You've got a chance, if any, to show Arteta that maybe you could be third choice at best. I would say no, because we're still linked with, Joan Garcia, for example. We're still linked with, what's the other goalie, man? The Ajax one as well, not Setford, obviously. We're still linked with him. There's that, still linked with Dan Bentley. You'd imagine technically 3 keepers if we sign 2 more, but you would imagine 2 more keepers arrive at first team level, or at least 1, because the club might say to Ramsdale, I hear it, you want to leave, but forget all of that. Or maybe Ramsdale says, you know what, I'm going to have one last chance, which I hope, as impossible as it is, I genuinely hope Ramsdale sits there and says, I'm going to give it one last chance trying to wrestle back Raya's spot. Like, can we just park this issue off until next season? Which I don't think can be the thing. I don't think we can go another season having all of that, man. So I think it's a loan thing. Like, for instance, Ramsdale's linked with Southampton. Again, I never wish relegation on anyone unless you support Spurs. But if you're Southampton, you've just been promoted. You've actually lost Che Adams, one of your key players. The key is to stay in the division. Are you really going to commit 35, 40 plus million quid for Ramsdale and pay him 100 odd grand a week? And you might not even be in the Premier League next season. So it's probably a loan at best. Newcastle and Chelsea still looking at goalies. The Ramsdale links have gone away. Ironically, we're trying to buy Dan Bentley from Wolves. There was a time where Ramsdale was linked with them. So we'll have to see. Raul done some mad business before he left. Arsenal signing business partners. I mean, did he not sign Saliba technically? So big him up, man. But yeah, man, that was a tough regime. The Michelin tap thing didn't work when we was trying to find the youngsters of tomorrow. The Raul Sanye thing did not work. It seems to be working with Edu and Arteta or whoever is involved, man. I think we're going to sign another keeper regardless of, like, if Ramsdale stays, I think we genuinely sign a third choice keeper. I think Tommy Setford trains with the first team, maybe on the bench and involved in some capacity on a match day, maybe makes his debut depending on the opposition we play in the League Cup. But I would say for Tommy Setford, I think you're just going to primarily play in the academy, train with the first team. And I'd be surprised if, this time next year, we're not talking about going on loans, but, or for example, in the January of 2026, need to go and play some first team football. David Raya isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We've just committed 27 million and things can change. Raya could wake up and say, I want to go back to Spain or something, but he's more or less grown up from a footballing point of view in this country. How old is David Raya? He's in his mid-20s. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. So unless Tommy Setford is out of this world, with the greatest of respect, you can never say never, but you're not going to take his spot, essentially. And I'm sure you want to, I don't think anyone wants to necessarily be a second and third choice keeper. So Raya's 28. Well, to be fair, Raya's older than I thought. He's 28, but he's still, for a goalie, that might as well be 25, really and truly. So it all depends. I mean, sure, if we get Setford and he becomes first, second, or third choice goalie at this football club, great. If not, we got him for what, £400,000. If you sell him for a couple of million or something more significant, great business, really and truly, man. So we'll have to see. Big up Raya, 28. He's been around for longer than I thought, man. So yeah, big up him. So we'll have to see, man. But yeah. What have we got here? Calafiori, White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber. How our defensive fortunes have changed. Good times to be a gooner. I would take Alvarez. I would as well. I like Alvarez, but would Alvarez be the answer, though? Would he be the answer? You could say he hasn't been afforded proper football like that. You look at the wealth of Argentina options, obviously, that they can choose from at international level. You've got Haaland in front of you, and he can play out wide, but you've got all the wealth of options there. Not sure, man, really, but I would have Julian Alvarez. I don't know for the, what did we read? Like 60, 70 million, well, 60 million, I think it said, and then 17 in add-ons. I mean, at 24 years of age, great. And I don't think Arsenal have a chance, really. Now, it's probably, the weather's probably slightly better in London versus Manny, but it seems like he wants to leave, really. I don't think it's too much of the weather, as the article said. I think he wants a more prominent role. Rashford's game won't change. He had to leave United to evolve. It won't now. Same with Leao. He's setting his ways to get better. That's the thing. But you know what? Leo do have some decent players. They had Osimhen once upon a time. They had Leao. Obviously, they had Pepe. There's probably a bunch of other players I can't remember. If I remember, we had more favourable terms for Pepe and we really wanted Zaha. I must admit, I do feel sorry for... That's one thing I feel sorry for Unai Emery, because what Arteta wants, he gets. Now, there's obviously been times where you couldn't get your first choice. You couldn't get Raya at first time round. You got Ramsdale. But I don't think, Emery was afforded what Arteta is to a slight degree. But at the same time, just because you wanted Zaha and you never got him, even though Zaha, Premier League experienced and all of that kind of stuff, could have made Pepe work, man. But I just think Pepe joined at the wrong time. Arteta was a transitional period. I think the luxury, as much as we liked him, a bit of why Pepe was kind of forced out was obviously the finances around that. He obviously joined us at a turbulent time as well. None of them signings are here anymore, are they? Guendouzi cut, Pepe's cut, Torreira's cut. I'm sure Soccer Artist was brought in around those times. I could be wrong. He's gone. So yeah, man, have to keep evolving. I think Raya is spot on. I think Alvarez would be a great signing. Looks like he makes intelligent runs and has a good IQ as a footballer. Same, but are City gonna sell us players? You know, you helped us with Gabriel Jesus. You helped us with Zinni. Whatever people say, they're gonna think twice. And I know it's easy for me to say in hindsight, but I must admit, Arteta, like, how did we miss the Cole Palmer one? Like, West Ham tried to get him and Chelsea get involved. So it is what it is. Only one is Tierney. Arteta called, managers are good liars in a positive sense. Arteta once said Tierney was a future captain. Go on Arsenal.com and look at when Tierney signed his last new deal. Again, we have to evolve, man. And to evolve, we have to make unpopular decisions. So, yeah, the Tierneys, the Ramsdales, the Smith Rowes, I don't really agree with it, but because I don't think they're prominent like that. But the Nelsons, the Nketiahs, these things are needed. I'm exaggerating 100%, but there might be a day where Odegaard, Saka, Declan Rice, Saliba, things might happen, or they might not necessarily be first names on the team sheet. You just never know, man. But as long as we could try to bring a title, who cares, man? I think Alvarez is perfect, but some fans want Tony for a more typical striker. I wouldn't be against Tony, like I said, but based on the fact that we're not 100% convinced by him, there's no point bringing him in. Wasn't Martinelli also in the Emre era? Yeah, you're bang on the money. So, yeah, big up Martinelli. He's the only survivor, essentially, along with Saliba. And them ones don't really, they count, but they don't count in that, they're too young kind of players. We kind of brought them with the future in mind. So at least, yeah, big up them for that. It's just nice as a football club that, rightly or wrongly, whether we make W's or L's, we're all pulling in the same direction. That hasn't always been the case at this football club across all aspects. And I praise the club for it, but my praise doesn't go too far because we're Arsenal Football Club. We should have been doing that a long time ago. And the competent things are what all the big boy clubs do in it. So you're doing the right things. It's like praising Lionel Messi for all his natural God-given talent for going training and having discipline. It comes with the territory. That's what you have to do. So who knows, man? But in relation to this live stream, people, I'm sure you lot are bored of my content and my voice now. This marks the end of the 3 videos for today. I'm going to go off and make a video, a bit of a tactical analysis on Smith Rowe. I'm actually doing one for Calafiori. So do make sure your notification bells are on. Thank you for listening. Big up you lot for your talking points, etc., etc. And I know we have many options at fullback, but I think I'm throwing the next one into the ring. Oh.
Against this right back, Charlie.